Hi everybody, so today we got to play The Crew. So it is a co-op trick-taking game, and obviously a small box game. So basically so the premise is that you guys are on some space missions and different things happen. You follow different scenarios in the book to try to accomplish different things. And you try to get the right numbers taken under certain tricks under certain players. So that's the general synopsis. It is a very straightforward game as long as you've done some trick taking in the past, like hearts, euchre, rook, bridge. There is some limited communication amongst the players through being able to...
They're supposed to be limited. Your frustration during the game might result in more than limited, but they're supposed to be limited.
Yeah, so the only way that you're supposed to be able to communicate is by one time during the round to lay down one card and either put a token at the top, the middle, and the bottom. The top meaning that it is the highest number of that color that you have. The middle is that's the only color, the only one of that color, and then the one, if you place it on the bottom, it is your lowest of that color. So that's essentially really the essence of the game. So let's talk about quality of pieces. What do we think, guys?
They're cards. I mean, there's not...
Are they good cards, though?
They have texture. They're not thick, but they're not bad. I mean, they're pretty decent cards.
I'm going to sleeve it up. I definitely want to sleeve it up just because I hope to play through. There's actually a total of 40 missions, and I'm hoping to be able to play through all 40 missions. And I think
that 50.
They'll get wore out. Are they 50?
It's 50.
Either way, it's going to get a lot of playthrough. I'm hoping, and so I don't want to ruin the cards. So, I want to sleeve them.
So we've played how many rounds this go?
12, didn't we?
Yeah, something like that.
12 in a couple hours.
12, yeah.
So, not even a couple hours. So it's a very quick game. Well, each mission is quick, but we really had a good time playing it. I'm kind of jumping in. So what would you rate quality of pieces?
I mean, there's not a whole lot of pieces to rate, but, you know, as far as cards are good card stock, I think these are probably the same. Yeah, they're textured too.
Little cardboard chits that signify different aspects of the mission.
Yeah, and they're fine. I mean, they're not nothing special. You've got a little card standee that marks whoever the captain is for the round, and then there's a token that's basically your, I don't think we can make this mission token, and you flip it over, and everybody passes one card to the person on their left in order to potentially make the mission successful, and that's all there is to it in the box. Well, I mean, you got the communication tokens that Miranda addressed earlier, and I'd say it's, the quality is 7 for what it is. I mean, it's a deck of cards. I mean, it's all it is, totally.
I agree. It's a 7.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's nothing more that they could have really added or taken away. I mean, really added to the game, and it's good quality cards.
Yeah.
So overall theme, though, what did you guys think?
Theme I like a lot. I'm always a fan of space games anyway, but the art's really good on it. I like the art a lot. And the art's unique for every card, so a lot of work went into the artwork, I think.
And there was a really cool reference to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy on one of the cards. That was a nice touch. I mean, there's a lot to this that makes it unique for being a space game, even though it's just a layered on theme. It could be anything, really.
It could be, but I think
I don't know, space missions and things that happen. I do think when you get the scenarios, they do a lot of add a flavor text, so I think that's kind of cool.
You could actually play this game with a regular deck of cards almost. I mean, apart from the fact that there's 4 trumps but you could use jokers for that. So there's really nothing that you couldn't play with just a standard deck of cards and taking out, only the 1s through the 9s. So it's,
but I think the artwork adds a lot. So yeah. I think it's more than just layered on because of the amount of work they did with the artwork.
Well, and then like I said, I think we have to include some of the logbook with it, and having those scenarios.
Yeah.
And you were laughing multiple times when you read the different scenarios. So I think you've got to be able to give.
Some of those scenarios, it starts out super easy.
Yeah, definitely ramps.
Like if you play this just like the first mission and like we're done, you're gonna probably give this game up because I mean it's so easy. And then as you go in, it ramps up, and then at one point it just jumps it seems like it jumps really quickly, but it doesn't. It's really not as hard as it sounds. But then we, there was a few that were like, oh, wait a minute. And then we would start arguing with each other. Why did you do that?
Yeah.
Why did you do that? That's where the fun comes, is when we start arguing with each other, because it's always fun to get mad at each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Playfully. Yeah. So what would you rate the theme, guys?
I'd give it an 8.
Playful? Oh.
The quality of the artwork, I'd give it an 8. And so, that's me.
Theme, I still don't think it's that critical. I mean, I think I'll give it a 7 on this too. I mean, if it weren't for the fact that that hitchhiker card was there, I probably wouldn't give it a 6, because there's nothing to it. But yeah, I mean, as far as they did take some care and slip in some sci-fi reference there, and there might be others I didn't really pay attention. Oh, there's a neat one about the, that work, the Michelangelo and the Sistine Chapel.
Oh, yeah.
So there's some neat little, things in there. So yeah, you'll probably notice some more as you flip through the cards if you were interested in this. So yeah, I'd say probably a 7.
I'm going to go with 7.5 for multiple reasons. I do think it's a good theme. I'd give a lot of points to the story telling for each scenario, so that's where I'm giving most of those points for me, along with a little like golden ticket item, little golden eggs throughout the cards. Easter eggs. There you go. That's what it is. All right. So moving on to the rule book. What'd you think?
The rulebook's fun. I mean, it's the rules themselves are super easy. It doesn't take much to figure it out. They have sidebars in it, which really were not necessary, but they're there. So if you want a quick reference, they're there. So it's similar to what the Aaliyah series does as far as that goes.
And it's kind of cool that you read it one direction, that's the rules. You flip it around
to the other side of the book.
Mission
yeah.
log. And so that's kind of cool.
There's a lot of illustrations in here and examples, which, again, you're probably not going to need, but they're there if you need them. And, it tells you basically you can read just up to chapter or page 11 and be done, and then start playing. And then refer to the rest as you get those issues come up. And you really don't need to read any further. Once you see something and it doesn't look familiar, go back and reference and you're good. So you can start pretty quickly. And it's a small rule book. It's no bigger than the box, obviously. So it's not, it doesn't take long to read this.
So give it a score.
I'll go 8 on this. I mean, it's fun. It's got a lot of, interesting. There's a story behind each mission, even though it's not an exciting story. It's still fun, and that they tied it into a little bit loosely to what the goal is of the mission, somewhat with the communications and such. So yeah, I'd say 8 probably.
Okay.
I'm good with an 8.
Yeah, I'm good with an 8. All right, gameplay. It's a trick-taking game, guys.
I think it's more than just a standard trick-taking game. If all it was like a euchre with sci-fi theme, it wouldn't be as good as it is. But the missions really add an element to this game, where especially in ramping up the difficulty, where instead of just taking a trick, now you have to take a specific trick. Now, not only do you have to take a specific trick, but you got to take it in a specific turn order, or you got to take it before Randy, but after Miranda. So, I mean, still a turn order, but a little different on how you do it. And then there's probably other changes that we haven't got to, because there's 30 plus more missions that we haven't touched yet. So it might even get more difficult. So I'm really looking forward to exploring more to the game. So definitely more than just a standard trick-taking game.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I can agree to that. I think the thing is like when we initially started playing, I was just like, this just makes me want to play Hearts, Rook, Bridge. But as we started getting more into it, it did give it a lot more flavor. And so I would like to see how towards the end plays to really be able to judge how much more this game gives us than your standard card tricking game.
Well, I mean, I am an avid bridge player, and this is, what's interesting with this is it kind of uses some of the skills that you use in bridge commonly that you don't see, you don't think about them in euchre. You don't think about them when you're playing hearts necessarily. Sometimes maybe a little more because you're playing with the full deck in hearts or spades. But certainly as a bridge player, it's utilizing some of the skills that you use to make sure you set up suits or, to void yourself in suits in order to make things playable. So it's using more than just your typical, euchre or light card game, which I like. And it's kind of it might be a good training game for bridge or something that's a little more complex like that. You know, whisk, bridge, whatever you play. So I like that concept. Given you've got different players who may not have the same levels of experience with trick taking, you might have more frustration or less frustration with your group. Depends. I don't know what your scenario will be, but with us, we had a pretty mixed group here of card players. We're all familiar with games, and we all played cards of different types, but maybe not as obviously I played bridge more than you guys. You've learned a little bit.
Yeah, but I played a lot of hearts and a lot of
I played
rook.
a lot of euchre.
A lot of rook. I played a lot of rook.
So we had different levels, but everybody was familiar with trick taking, so it wasn't a brand new concept here. If you've never played a trick taking card game, it might be a little harder for you to pick up. So like the rule book might be more useful for you in those cases where we just kind of breezed through those things because it wasn't that hard of a concept. So, it depends on your familiarity with cards, but it's still an easy game no matter how you look at it as far as learning the rules.
Yeah.
It gets more complex as you play with the different criteria of the missions you go on. So, I think it was a lot of fun for what it was. It's it's a good game to end the night with, a good game to break into for the first thing and while you're waiting for people. But it is kind of expecting that you're going to play with the same people every time, too. Because it is kind of a legacy. It's not really, I guess,
it's campaign. And the neat thing is they give you, basically the option of doing 6 different campaigns. So you can do 6 different groups to play this with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to write your name in and all your stats on there. I don't know what all stats it have, so that you can play with those same people over and over. But they do give you 6 slots where you can mix and match your crew members in different runs of the game. So it has a little bit of replayability from that standpoint. But honestly, once you play it, you can do any mission you want, not have to go in sequence.
And you can make your own, really. Yeah. You can just randomly draw different stipulations on how you take the tricks and just make your own scenario.
Yeah, it's not like a game you're going to have to throw away after you finish it.
Right.
It's not. You could still play it.
Yeah. So give it we haven't heard anything from...
We all covered everything.
There isn't a whole lot to say about this one.
So give it a score, guys.
I'm going to give it an 8. I like the theme. It's a really fun game. I think it's a high 8.
Okay, what about you?
I'm going to stick with a 7. I don't think it's. It is a very simple game, and I'm not a big small box gamer, so I would stick with a 7 on this one. I think it's not. It's unique in the sense that they're combining the theme of the space with kind of a campaign mission thing, but the card play is like a lot of other card games out there. It's not that different.
Okay, Andrew.
I'll give it a 7.
I think a 7's a good place for me as well.
And
for right now.
And the designer, by the way, is Thomas Singh, and the artist is Marco Armbruster, and it was produced by Cosmos.
What year? Is it this year?
It came out in 2019.
Oh, okay. It's been out longer than I thought.
Yeah, I think it came out at Gen Con last year.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, again, thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope you had a fun time, and hopefully you learned about another game. If you would want to see more of us, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. We really appreciate you guys.
Good night.
Bye.